Welcome to Wisdom-Trek with Gramps. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, and we are on day 2850 of our trek. The purpose of Wisdom-Trek is to create a legacy of wisdom, to seek out discernment and insights, and to boldly grow where few have chosen to grow before. The title for today's Wisdom-Trek is The Taw of the Summit, the Shepherd's Final Seal. In our previous episode on this grand expedition, we hiked through the 21st stanza of Psalm 119, known as the Shin section. We stood our ground on a treacherous battlefield, facing the intense pressure of powerful earthly princes. We recognized that these human rulers were merely proxies, acting as the avatars for the rebel gods of the divine council. Yet, instead of surrendering to their terrifying threats, we chose to tremble exclusively before the word of the Most High God. We discovered that when our hearts are captivated by the treasure of the cosmic blueprint, we are granted a profound, indestructible Shalom, a great peace that prevents us from stumbling regardless of the chaos surrounding us. Today, my friends, we have reached the summit. After a long, arduous, and breathtaking climb, we are taking our final steps to the absolute peak of this magnificent alphabetical mountain. We are exploring the 22nd and final stanza. This is the Taw section, covering Psalm 119, verses 169 through 176, in the New Living Translation. In the ancient Hebrew alphabet, the letter Taw, or Tav, is the very last letter. In the oldest pictographic scripts, it was drawn as a cross, or a definitive mark. It represents a seal, a covenant signature, a monument, and the absolute culmination of a journey. As we stand at the summit of this colossal psalm, the writer does not offer us a boastful speech of human triumph. Instead, he places a final, humble mark upon his life, surrendering himself entirely to the rescue of the divine shepherd. Let us take these final steps together and learn what it means to bear the seal of the king. The first segment is the culminating cry in the cosmic throne room. Psalm 119, verses 169 and 170. O Lord, listen to my cry. Give me the discerning mind you promised. Listen to my prayer. Rescue me as you promised. The final stanza begins with an urgent, pressing petition. The psalmist stands at the very threshold of the heavenly throne room, and he lifts his voice. O Lord, listen to my cry. Give me the discerning mind you promised. The literal Hebrew translation paints a vivid picture of proximity. It says, Let my cry come before your face, O Yahweh. After traversing the valleys of affliction, surviving the traps of the wicked, and enduring the suffocating darkness of the night watches, the psalmist is finally presenting his accumulated grief directly to the sovereign of the divine council. He is not shouting into the void. He is placing his petition right in front of the face of the Creator. And what does he ask for in this ultimate audience? He does not ask for vengeance against the princes who harassed him. He asks for a discerning mind. He knows that the spiritual warfare of this world is fought and won on the battlefield of the intellect. The rebel principalities thrive on human ignorance, confusion, and deception. To survive their relentless campaigns, the believer desperately needs the supernatural discernment that only the King can provide. He immediately pairs this request for internal understanding with a plea for external deliverance. Listen to my prayer. Rescue me as you promised. Once again, the literal text says, Let my supplication come before your presence. He is piling his prayers upon the altar. Notice that both of these requests, the plea for a discerning mind and the cry for rescue, are anchored directly to the covenant. He repeats the phrase, as you promised. He is holding God to his own cosmic contract. He is reminding the Creator that he has given his word to protect and to guide the loyal members of his earthly family. The second segment is the eruption of the living fountain. Psalm 119, verses 171 and 172. Let praise flow from my lips, for you have taught me your decrees. Let my tongue sing about your word, for all your commands are right. As the psalmist stands in the presence of Yahweh, anticipating the fulfillment of those promises, something beautiful happens. His desperation transforms into an uncontrollable eruption of worship. Let praise flow from my lips, for you have taught me your decrees. The Hebrew word for flow is naba, which means to bubble up, to gush forth, or to pour out like a geyser. This is not a manufactured, rigid, or forced religious exercise. When you truly understand that the Maker of the universe has personally stooped down to teach you his cosmic decrees, praise becomes the natural, unavoidable byproduct. It bubbles up from the deepest reservoirs of the soul. The heavy, stagnant waters of exile are suddenly flushed out by a rushing, living spring of gratitude. This bubbling spring quickly becomes a resounding, melodic anthem. Let my tongue sing about your word, for all your commands are right. In the biblical worldview, singing is not merely an emotional release. It is an act of spiritual warfare and theological declaration. The pagan nations sang songs to glorify the chaotic, bloodthirsty exploits of their rebel gods. They sang of power, domination, and selfish indulgence. But the faithful exile sings a completely different tune. He sings about the inherent, flawless righteousness of God's instructions. He declares that all your commands are right, or perfectly just. By singing the truth into the atmosphere, he is actively pushing back the darkness. He is using his voice to reclaim the contested territory of the earth, announcing to the unseen realm that the laws of Yahweh are supreme, beautiful, and worthy of total adoration. The third segment is the open hand and the deliberate choice. Psalm 119, verses 173 and 174. Stand ready to help me, for I have chosen to follow your commandments. O Lord, I have longed for your rescue, and your instructions are my delight. Having poured out his praise, the psalmist turns back to the practical, daily reality of his survival. Stand ready to help me, for I have chosen to follow your commandments. Literally, the text asks, let your hand become my help. We saw earlier in this grand psalm how the psalmist recognized that he was carefully fashioned by the hands of God. Now, he asks those same powerful, creative hands to remain open and ready to intervene on his behalf. He justifies this bold request with a profound statement of human agency. For I have chosen to follow your commandments. In the cosmic rebellion, neutrality is a myth. Every human being must make a definitive choice. The rebel spiritual forces constantly tempt humanity to choose the path of autonomy, offering the illusion of freedom in exchange for spiritual slavery. But the psalmist has exercised his free will, and he has deliberately, consciously selected the precepts of the Creator. He has drawn a line in the sand, and he is asking God to defend the territory he has chosen. He emphasizes this loyalty in verse 174. O Lord, I have longed for your rescue, and your instructions are my delight. The Hebrew word for rescue here is Yeshua, meaning salvation, deliverance, and ultimate victory. He is homesick for the consummation of God's kingdom. He longs for the day when the divine council will finally execute justice, completely overthrowing the rebel principalities and restoring the earth to its Edenic perfection. But as he waits for that final Yeshua, he does not sit in idle misery. He finds his present, sustaining delight in the instructions of the King. The cosmic blueprint is the joyful map that keeps him moving forward, even while he longs for his final home. The fourth segment is the lost sheep and the enduring mark. Psalm 119, verses 175 and 176. Let me live so I can praise you, and may your regulations help me. I have wandered away like a lost sheep. Come and find me, for I have not forgotten your commands. The final two verses of this monumental psalm bring us to a deeply moving, unexpected conclusion. First, he asks for the preservation of his life, with a very specific goal in mind. Let me live so I can praise you, and may your regulations help me. He is not clinging to life out of a selfish fear of death. He wants his soul to live, purely so that he can continue to serve as a worshiping imager of the Most High God. He wants to remain on the battlefield, praising the Creator and leaning heavily upon the helping, guiding staff of God's cosmic judgments. Then comes the grand finale. Verse 176 is the very last breath of Psalm 119. After 175 verses of declaring his intense love for the law, his hatred of falsehood, his midnight vigils, and his unbending loyalty, how does he choose to end this masterpiece? He ends it with a stunning, vulnerable confession. I have wandered away like a lost sheep. Come and find me, for I have not forgotten your commands. To the modern reader, this might seem like a sudden contradiction. How can a man who just claimed to be wiser than his teachers and who swore to follow God to the very end suddenly admit that he is a lost, wandering sheep? This is the ultimate paradox of the faithful exile. The psalmist has climbed to the absolute summit of spiritual maturity, and the view from the top has given him a profound realization. He realizes that no matter how much he loves the Torah, no matter how fiercely he hates the lies of the enemy, and no matter how hard he tries to stay on the path, his human frailty remains. He is living in a dangerous, contested wilderness, surrounded by the predatory wolves of the rebel kingdom. And sometimes, despite his best intentions, he gets disoriented. He drifts. He wanders. He does not end his magnum opus with a boast of sinless perfection. He ends it by throwing himself entirely upon the mercy of the divine shepherd. Come and find me. Literally, seek your servant. He acknowledges that salvation is not a self-guided tour. If the shepherd does not leave the 99 and actively hunt through the dark ravines of this world to retrieve his wandering servant, the sheep will perish. Yet, even in his wandering, he bears the mark of the covenant. He bears the Tal. He says, "For I have not forgotten your commands." He might be temporarily lost in the brush, but he has not committed treason. His heart still belongs to the shepherd. He still remembers the sound of the master's voice. He is a marked sheep, waiting to be carried home. Psalm 119, verses 169 through 176, brings our long, rigorous expedition to a brilliant, humbling close. It teaches us that true spiritual maturity is not the absence of weakness. It is the absolute recognition of our desperate need for the Creator. We have traversed 22 stanzas, climbing through the dust of affliction, the smoke of the waiting room, and the blazing light of God's eternal truth. As you walk your trek today, and as we look back over this massive mountain we have climbed, allow praise to flow from your lips like a living fountain. Sing about the unshakable righteousness of God's commands. Choose deliberately and fiercely to follow his cosmic blueprint. And when you inevitably stumble, when you feel disoriented by the noise of the culture, or when you wander off the trail like a lost sheep, do not despair. Call out to the Good Shepherd. Ask him to come and find you. Remember that you bear the seal of the King, and trust that his strong, capable hands will carry you safely all the way to the summit. If you found this podcast insightful, please subscribe and leave us a review. Then encourage your friends and family to join us and come along tomorrow for another day of Wisdom Trek, creating a legacy. Thank you so much for allowing me to be your guide, mentor, and most importantly, I am your friend as I serve you through this Wisdom Trek podcast and journal. As we take this trek of life together, let us always live abundantly, love unconditionally, listen intentionally, learn continuously, lend to others generously, lead with integrity, leave a living legacy each day. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, reminding you to keep moving forward, enjoy your journey, and create a great day every day. See you next time for more daily wisdom.